Okay, so have you ever felt like sometimes you're just like drowning in information, trying to keep up with all this technology and all the buzzwords?
It definitely can be a challenge to cut through the hype.
Yeah, so today we're going to try to focus on like one thing, a technology that's not just, like a future trend, but it's already like changing how things work like right now.
Right. And that's what we're going to dive into today.
So we're taking a deep dive into deep learning and neural networks.
Exactly.
And listen, this isn't just for, like super techie people out there.
Right.
Deep learning is like behind a lot of the huge changes that you're already seeing out there.
Yeah.
Like from breakthroughs in healthcare
Yeah.
that could like, lead to early diagnosis of diseases,
Oh, yeah.
to the self-driving cars that you might be starting to see on the roads.
More and more.
And even how like, your favorite streaming service knows exactly what you want to watch next.
Yeah. Knows you better than you know yourself sometimes.
Right? Understanding deep learning is
Yeah.
like understanding, how these forces are shaping our future.
Yeah, definitely.
So like our mission in this deep dive is to unpack this innovation,
Okay.
trace its roots,
Yeah,
reveal its impact on the world in a way that hopefully you'll find understandable and even fascinating.
definitely.
So we've gone through a bunch of articles for this, looking at, how the technology works, its history, and what it all means, for the world around us.
Yeah.
So, okay, you hear these terms all the time, deep learning, neural networks. What are we actually talking about?
Yeah. So at its heart, a neural network is a type of algorithm, and it's inspired by how the human brain works.
Okay, so it's not like a computer that can think,
Not yet, at least.
but it's like modeled after similar principles of like connections and processing.
Exactly. Yeah, think of it as like a system designed to recognize patterns
Yep.
and solve really complex problems
Okay.
that are too intricate sometimes for traditional computer programs
Okay.
to really handle.
Yeah, so give us some like concrete examples so we can really picture how this works.
Yeah, certainly. So let's consider like image recognition. Like
Right.
when you're using a social media app
Right.
and it automatically tags your friend,
Right.
that's probably a neural network at work.
Okay.
It's identifying faces and it's learned these complex visual patterns to do so.
Okay.
Or when you're using voice commands with like a smart speaker
Yeah.
and it understands what you're saying,
Yeah.
that's deep learning, powering that speech recognition.
Okay.
It's deciphering all the nuances of human language.
Wow.
And then we see it in those self-driving cars that you mentioned.
Right.
They're analyzing sensor data to navigate those roads, avoid obstacles,
Right.
and things like predictive text and personalized recommendations that you see online every day.
Oh, yeah.
It's all powered by deep learning.
So it sounds like this is a super cutting edge field, given these like recent advancements.
Yeah, a lot of people think that.
Yeah.
But actually, the initial ideas go way back, like to the 1950s,
Oh, well.
with the work of Warren McCulloch
Okay.
and Walter Pitts, who created the first mathematical model of an artificial neuron.
So like the 1950s, that's like decades before, most of the technology we rely on even existed.
Right. Yeah.
So why didn't it take off back then?
Yeah, good question.
What held it back?
So basically, we didn't have the computational power that we needed
Okay.
to train these really complex networks.
Okay.
You know, imagine trying to teach a toddler a huge vocabulary
Right.
with only a few flashcards. It would be a very slow process.
Yeah.
We also lacked like massive data sets that were necessary for them to learn
Okay.
and recognize those patterns in a meaningful way.
So it wasn't really until like the mid 2000s that things started to change.
Yeah, the mid-2000s is when we saw a resurgence
Okay.
driven by those advancements in computing power,
Okay.
the explosion of data,
Right. Available online.
yeah, and the development of new sophisticated algorithms.
So the potential was there, but we just didn't have the tools and resources
Exactly.
until more recently.
Yeah.
And like, who are some of these like, these researchers that kind of push things forward?
Yeah, so there are a few really big names. Jeffrey Hinton,
Okay.
Jan LeCun,
Okay.
and Yoshua Bengio.
Okay.
They've done really foundational work that's led to the technologies that are impacting our lives today.
Okay.
So they've received, well-deserved recognition for their contribution.
And you mentioned the ImageNet challenge.
Yes.
Like what made that such a turning point?
So 2012 was a big year.
Oh,
Jeffrey Hinton's team developed an algorithm,
okay.
and it just blew away the competition in this ImageNet challenge.
Okay.
And this competition is basically training algorithms to classify images
Okay.
and their network achieved like a much lower error rate
Okay.
than any of the previous methods.
So it wasn't just like a small improvement. It was like a
It's a huge leap.
huge leap.
Yeah. And it demonstrated the power of deep learning,
Okay.
especially with like visual information.
Okay.
It showed the world that these networks could do something really remarkable in image understanding.
So it went from like theoretical promise to like a, a real demonstration.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's like connect this directly to the listener now. Like, why should they care about all of this?
Yeah. So the impact is already being felt in your life, probably.
Oh,
Think about healthcare.
okay.
Deep learning is allowing doctors to diagnose diseases like certain cancers
Right.
much earlier with greater accuracy
I
than
heard.
ever before.
It's huge.
Yeah, and this leads to like more timely treatment and directly impacts health outcomes.
Right. And then, there's also like the self-driving cars,
Yeah.
which can seem like a futuristic fantasy.
Yeah,
But deep learning is like the core technology
it is.
that allows them to process all that data from their sensors
Yeah,
and navigate those complex environments safely.
right. It's changing transportation as we know it.
Yeah. And then even in something as simple as like our social media feeds,
Yes.
deep learning plays a big role.
It's
I mean, like
good.
the personalized content that we see,
Yeah.
the recommendations, for videos and articles,
Yeah.
those are often driven by, neural networks that are constantly learning
Yeah,
about our preferences
they are.
based on, how we interact with things.
Yeah.
So for somebody who is listening, who wants to understand this, more deeply, how can they like learn more about this?
Yeah, so I'd say a really good first step is to just get a basic understanding of machine learning in general,
Okay.
because deep learning is a subfield of machine learning.
Okay.
So you need to understand those basics.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then getting hands-on experience is also very insightful.
Well,
There are platforms like TensorFlow and PyTorch
okay.
that give you the tools to build and experiment with neural networks.
Well,
It might sound intimidating,
yeah.
but even just experimenting a little bit can deepen your understanding.
So not just like passively reading about it, but like
Yeah.
really getting in there.
Your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the field is evolving so rapidly,
Right.
it's important to stay current with the latest advancements.
Right.
So keeping an eye on leading AI conferences
Right.
like NeuraPS and ICML,
Okay.
and looking at research papers from, prominent researchers.
So it's kind of like staying up to date on, scientific breakthroughs in any field.
Exactly.
And it doesn't have to be a solitary journey to
Yeah. No, not at all.
Like, are there communities out there?
Oh, yeah. There are online communities like
Yeah.
on Reddit or Stack Overflow
Okay.
that are really valuable. You can connect with other enthusiasts, professionals, ask questions,
Okay.
share insights, get different perspectives.
It's nice to have that support system.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, we've talked about some pretty serious applications of deep learning,
Yeah.
but it's not all like industrial and scientific uses, is it?
Right. No, it's really fascinating to see how broad it's becoming.
Okay.
Like it's even in the arts now.
Oh, wow.
So there are projects like DeepArt. They
Wow.
transform photos into the styles of famous painters
Wow.
using neural networks.
Wow. So it can analyze like, an artistic style
Exactly. Yeah.
and recreate it.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
And Google's Magenta project uses AI to actually generate music.
Wow.
So it really highlights like the creative potential
Yeah.
that goes beyond just like analyzing things.
So it's not just crunching numbers.
Yeah.
There's like a creative element to this too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And I think that's where cross-disciplinary thinking can lead to exciting possibilities, no matter what your background is.
Right.
Like, think about how deep learning could intersect with your own areas of interest.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you have a background in biology.
Yeah.
It could be used to accelerate drug discovery.
Wow.
If you're in finance, it could enhance fraud detection or market analysis.
Okay.
And even in fields like history or linguistics.
Deep learning can uncover patterns in massive amounts of text and data.
So it's really impacting like a lot of different fields.
It is, yeah. The potential is huge.
Okay, so you promised us some surprising insights.
Yes.
I love like the little, details and things.
Yeah. Okay, so here's one.
Okay.
It's estimated that the energy consumed in training a single large deep learning model
Okay.
is about the same as the lifetime emissions of 5 cars.
Wow.
So that really highlights
A lot.
it highlights the resources required
Yeah.
to develop and run these systems.
Yeah.
and the importance of developing more energy-efficient AI techniques.
Yeah, so it's not just about speed and efficiency.
Right.
There's like real-world impacts
Exactly.
of all this computing power.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's another surprising insight?
So another milestone happened in 2015
Yeah.
when an AI program called AlphaGo
Okay.
defeated the world champion in the game of Go.
Wow.
And this was a huge achievement because Go is so complex. It has way more possible move than chess.
Okay.
And experts thought that AI mastering Go was decades away.
Wow.
So it showed the astonishing capabilities of these networks.
An AI teaching itself to master a game like that.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, what are some key takeaways?
Yeah, so I think the big picture is that deep learning and neural networks aren't just a fad.
Right.
They're like fundamental technologies that are already here.
Yeah,
And they're going to continue to shape the world in like profound ways.
for sure.
And I think, understanding these technologies is empowering for all of us.
It is.
Whether you're a tech professional
Yeah.
or a business leader or just someone who's curious about the world,
Absolutely.
having a grasp of these concepts lets you understand the changes happening around you
Yeah,
and maybe even contribute to shaping the future.
definitely.
So we've gone from the very beginning of this
Yeah.
to the cutting edge today, talking about everything from recognizing faces to the energy demands of these systems.
It's been a pretty wide-ranging conversation.
It has, yeah.
So given all of that,
Yeah.
given the advancements and all these applications that we've talked about,
Yeah.
what do you think are some of the overlooked aspects of our lives that will be impacted by deep learning in the next decade? It's a question worth thinking about.
Yeah, it really is.
As this technology keeps evolving.
It's moving so fast.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well,